Hello, Math 12 fans. I'm going to do a quick review of supply and demand for Math 111. So this is really a Math 111 112 review. I always have more review material. If you go to my website, you can scroll down and you'll see a discussion of this section. Now there's a section on income flow, which isn't in the homework this term. So you can scroll down and see where we have supply and demand, which is the section we're in. And I do a quick review of what the pieces are. So if you want to read more, you can. We're going to do something new in Math 112 is just talk about this area, which will give us a chance to play around with the tools we're dealing with. But I realize not everyone took Math 111 last term, so I'm just going to give a quick recap. And we've seen this already a little bit this term. But we have this curve we call the demand. So this axis is the price. I'm not going to give a full recap. We don't really need to know that much about this, but let me... and this is the quantity down here, or the demand. And it's just an idea, a conceptual idea of, for consumers, from our perspective, this is usually the one we can relate to better. When the price goes down, we're more willing to buy it. So you can see that. When the price goes down, the demand goes up. So this point here might be saying, hey, if the price gets down to, $30, we're going to sell 5,000. Whereas when the price shoots up to $200, we're only going to sell, 70. Okay, so that's that idea. So you could think of this as something you've gone out and done market research, and you've got this data. And if you just have a little bit of data, you might make a line. But if you have more precise data, you might have a curve. Okay. Supply is the other perspective, which is what the suppliers would want. They want the price to be as high as possible. They want to manufacture and get as much money back. So if the price goes down, they're willing to produce fewer, right? So at a higher price, if they can go out and sell it for $100 an item, then they maybe are willing to make 300 of them, or 3,000, whatever it is. I better get my axes right. Hopefully I labeled the other one right. But you demand about 1,000 when the price is going to be, I don't know, $300 or something. And if the price is lower, we're not going to be willing to produce as many. So that's just a conceptual idea. But the spot in the middle is when things meet up, meaning the number that people are willing to supply and the number that people are willing to buy are equal. And that's an equilibrium, we say. That's not necessarily good for either party. For consumer, we'd like the price to be lower, but it means there's not going to be extra stuff on the shelves. Okay, so we do that in Math 111, and I'm going to shrink that down. I know I left my little marks here. But this is going to be step one in these problems, is finding that market equilibrium. So it mostly in Math 111 was a chance to play around with intersection. So here's an example from my notes. I'll just move it right up on top of this. And we had two lines. So we had like a little bit of data, and based off of that, we found these two lines, and then we found when they intersect. And I talk about how that means you're combining, you're substituting, and we solve, we get quantity and price, and that tells us where that point is. Okay? So you did a bunch of that in Math 111. So those of you that didn't pick Math 111, it's just finding intersections. Okay? So you don't need to know very much. I'm going to get rid of that. That's from you can go into my Math 111 course page, my materials page, which is not on Canvas, it's open to anyone, and you can go to lecture notes on supply and demand. Okay, so then we said a few other things, and pull this up here, and we talked about just a general note, and again, this is Math 111 stuff. We said, okay, once you know that your equilibrium price is $784, what happens if the market price that year is higher? What's going to happen? So the price is a little higher than, we thought the market equilibrium was to be $784. The price was a little higher. Fewer people are going to demand it. So I computed that, and I found that 50 items are going to be demanded just by plugging into the demand function. And then I did, okay, what about the supply function? I plugged it into the supply. It was 56. So that's a problem in that they're going to supply 56, put them out on the shelves, and only 50 are going to get bought. So we say it's a 6-item surplus. And if the price is below market equilibrium, then there's going to be a shortage in the marketplace. It's like at Christmas when there's a popular item. Okay, that's more than you need to know, but it's just a way to think about supply and demand in the two perspectives that are competing. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to solve a couple equilibrium points to finish this review up. So here's that discussion we just had. This is also from my notes. I'm going to get rid of this. Sorry to remove things. I'm just trying to give a quick recap so we can get to some problems. So there you go. If the market price is greater than market equilibrium, that's what we just discussed. All right, we're going to refine that a little bit in Math 112 and measure a little more of how much surplus there is. And that's going to give us a chance to use integrals and areas and talk about something else you'll see in econ. All right, so what is step one? Well, step one is going to always be to find that market equilibrium. So I went and looked at the Math 111 homework to prepare this. Let me zoom out a little bit. And here's a bunch of problems from the Math 111 homework. I'll pull them up. Back up to our picture. Sorry, I didn't prepare this very well. And so these are ones you've done. Those of you that took Math 111, you did these problems. And so this is kind of a nice opportunity for us to remind you that, hey, we've done this quite a bit. It's just an intersection question. And you're going to do it again a little bit in this next homework. So this is these problems all give us a chance to talk about, you solve for one variable, whatever it is, p equals negative q plus 57 over 2, and then you substitute that in for p. That'll give you one variable, and you solve. Same thing here, you solve for one of your variables, you substitute the other, you solve. Here they're already solved for each other, so it's easier to substitute, and you solve. So you did that a bunch of times, Math 111. These are just a few of the examples I pulled up. You're only going to do it a few times in the homework now, but you are going to have to find that. So let me grab one of the homework from this term and talk about it a little bit. All right, so let's grab a couple of these. We'll bring them up here. And these are a couple problems from your current homework. They're going to ask you to do more after you find the equilibrium, but first you're going to find the equilibrium. So here's a reminder. They're giving us two parabolas. Now the parabolas are only going to make sense in the first quadrant. So we have some sort of parabola like this. Sad parabola. It actually goes this way, but we're going to ignore that. That's that one. So that's the demand because it's going down. And then we have a parabola that's going up like this. Okay, so when the question asks you for market equilibrium, you're trying to find this intersection. So your goal is to combine. So step one in combining or finding intersections is to solve one equation for one variable. It doesn't matter which one. This one's already solved for p. Step two is to substitute that p into the other one to get it down to one variable, because your goal is to find when the p's are the same. So we're going to substitute, and I always tell students that is your aim in intersection questions, is to combine conditions. So we're going to combine conditions, 144 minus x squared. I need that to be equal to, put a little question mark here to remind me that I'm solving, x squared plus 2x plus 84. And get everything to one side, 2x squared plus 2x. And I usually have my calculator visible, but here, just to kind of illustrate, I'm going to do a quick subtraction here, negative 60. So you can do that. You don't have to do it all in your head. Then it's a quadratic formula. I personally would divide everything by 2 because it makes my numbers a little cleaner. And then I actually, because I divided everything by 2, I think I can see a way to factor. But the quadratic formula is perfectly fine. Negative 1 plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac. All over 2a. And that's going to be pretty nice because it's negative 1 plus or minus, I think, 121 over 2. So it's negative 1 plus or minus 11 over 2. Or you could come back here and factor it. I think it's x plus 6, x minus 5. And when you solve, you get x equals 5 or x equals negative 6. So you can try that one as well to see if you get that. So the market equilibrium is when x is 5. So there's a review. That's something I know you did several times in Math 111, but if you didn't take Math 111, it's a pure intersection question. If you want the P, you plug it into either one. In fact, it's much better to plug it into both of them because your goal was to make the X's and P's equal. So if you don't get the same thing from both, you know there's something wrong. So first one gives me 119. Now let's do the second one. And as you can see, it doesn't take very long to check your work. So 2 times 5 plus 84. You got to get into this thinking of, I'm going to make sure it's right in the first submission, just like a test. So then you do 5, 119. Okay, so there's a reminder of step 1 of those homework questions is that market equilibrium. The reason you have to do that first is because what we're going to do next in the next discussion is what we'll do in class, is we'll find that area. But you can't find the area unless you know where that height is. Okay. There's another one from the homework. Again, that's just like something, this pure competition. There's a few words coming in from econ, but it's still just combined. So you have two equations, equation 1, equation 2. Solve for one variable in one equation, substitute into the other. That will get you down to one variable. And you get this. So interesting, because I was looking back through the Math 111 homework, and you actually had to solve quite a few problems like this, where you had to clear the denominator. And we've used that again this term. So if I was solving this equation, my advice is to multiply both sides by x plus 1 to clear the denominator. What I mean by that is that makes this 1. Unfortunately, it makes the other side a little messier, so we got to do some monkey facing here. So let's see what we get. So we get x, that's that eyebrow, plus 0.2x squared, there's the mouth, plus 0.2x plus 1 equals 57. So we get 0.2x squared plus 1.2x. Let's subtract. Minus 56 equals 0. And there I'm a little tempted to multiply everything by 10 because I don't like the decimals. But let's say I'll try to do this the way a student would do it. Let's do the quadratic formula. So negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, and let's get my calculator out. 1.2 squared minus 4 times 0.2 times negative 56. And those of you, this is exactly how I always do this when in class or in videos when I do this, is I calculate what's under the radical and I write it down. That's 2,4. Because I find that helpful. And then I hit the square root of my answer. So square root of that answer, and it's 6.8. So I think having these good routines really helps avoid errors. And it gives you a way to go back and check. In case I messed up, like I could check, did I actually calculate the thing under the radical correctly? Okay, so now there's two things. I know I'm looking for the positive one. So honestly, I would know at this point that I only needed to consider this plus 6.8 over 0.4 because that's the only way I'm going to get a positive number. But you could calculate them both and see if you can't see that. And I'm going to divide by 0.4 and I got 14. Done. So that's the x at market equilibrium. Now you can plug in 14 here, and you really should plug it into both because that will confirm that your solving was correct. So I'm going to do 57 divided by 14 plus 1, so 15, and this comes out to be 3.8. And then this one, 1 plus 0.2 times 14 comes out to be 3.8. It is really satisfying to check your work and have it come out right. So market equilibrium for this problem, x and p. X is 14, p is $3.80, or we can just say 3.8. So that's the market equilibrium step. I just wanted to review that. I think we did 2 of the trick your homework questions. Let's pull up one more thing before I go. just to show I'm not lying to you. This is the 13.4 homework. Some of the questions already tell you the market equilibrium. So question 1, you don't have to do what we just did. You're just going to use the formula for the area, which we'll talk about in class. Question 2, you will have to find the market equilibrium and then use that to find the area. Okay, so this second one is the new thing. The first one is the review. This one you need to do what we just did and then find the area. This one they tell you the market equilibrium. This one they tell you the supply function of this. What is the producer surplus when 15 units are sold? So we'll talk about the definition of each of those pieces. Okay, so there you go. So each one, your first step is to find out a market equilibrium. I hope that review helps you with step 1 of those problems.